Hello everyone, welcome to Anime No Me, and thank you for joining us for another One Piece video. Monkey D. Luffy is a boy who's quite different from a lot of the others. It's not because he has something special about his body, but more because of his personality, and many characters have commented on how this different behavior that Luffy has is something very similar to the former Pirate King, Goldie Roger. Now, although Luffy has been compared to the Pirate King several times, they have no blood relation, but it's quite noticeable that Luffy does have many mannerisms and even expressions that look a lot like Roger's. So in today's video, we're going to talk about the possibility of Luffy potentially being a copy of Goldie Roger, being created by Vegapunk in order to be used for some special purpose that may be related to the revolutionaries. But before we dive into the video, if you're new to the channel or even if you've watched a bunch of our videos, we'd be absolutely honored if you'd leave us a like and even subscribe and maybe leave us a comment letting us know what you thought of the video. It really helps us out and it also motivates us to make more content. And if you'd like to help out the channel in a bigger way, consider sharing this video or another one of your favorites with a friend. Without further ado, let's get into the video. So my friends, throughout his life, Dr. Vegapunk has done many different experiments with living beings, even managing to recently create children with some pretty impressive powers called seraphims, which means that Vegapunk may have tried this in the past. Throughout the story of One Piece, we've seen that Luffy has had many similarities with the former king, Goldie Roger. Luffy's appearance and even his personality is quite similar to that of Roger's. This is something quite strange, since Luffy really doesn't bear any resemblance to his father, Monkey D. Dragon, but rather bears a lot of resemblance to a pirate he seems to have no blood connection to. We recently found out in the manga that Vegapunk and Dragon have a connection and may have been longtime allies, which could mean that Dragon and Vegapunk may be planning on something very large to happen in the world. A plan that Luffy may in fact be involved in. As we said before, Vegapunk is an immensely important and intelligent scientist who researches genetic alteration, which could mean that he might have created a child with Roger's cells. Since we first met Luffy, he had a very similar appearance to Roger, having much of the same goals and even the same personality, which could mean that Luffy could be a clone of Roger. Because of all the talk of inherited will throughout the story, this could be why Luffy possesses a similar goal and wants to follow in Roger's footsteps. Because as we see in Luffy's personality, he possesses kind of a certain level of common sense and acts impulsively and in a reckless manner, very similar to what Rayleigh had described of his former captain, Roger. Also like Roger, Luffy possesses the ability to see through someone else's heart and is deeply ambitious. Roger in fact told everyone that he wanted to find the One Piece treasure, while Luffy tells everyone that he also has the same desire, wanting to become the next king of the pirates. And the similarities don't just stop there. Roger and Luffy have an immensely great appetite for food and possess an ability to make friends easily and even turn former enemies into friends. And they also have this desire to often sacrifice themselves to avenge or protect their friends or family or crewmates. Through their ability to connect with others, Luffy and Roger have had the ability to change people quite naturally. I mean, we saw that Rayleigh was a totally rebellious person who only did things out of his own desire, but over time, Roger managed to change him, making him a very kind and generous person because he wanted to follow Roger because he believed in what he wanted to do. Luffy has also been able to change the personalities of other people, especially the personality of Shanks, who because of his incredible strength and hockey control was arrogant, impatient, and extremely proud. But upon meeting Luffy and building his friendship and then eventually saving his life, Shanks became almost a new person, completely changing into somebody who saw a little boy as the future pirate king, just like his former captain Roger. Luffy is also the kind of person who is naturally not cruel and is rather proud of weak people who strive to achieve some kind of goal of their own. And even despite their limitations, he rallies them on, because we saw what happened when Luffy created his friendship with Kobe. He saw what the young man wanted to do and just further encouraged him to chase his dreams. Like Roger, Luffy is also a very smiley person, but his personality can change quickly depending on the situation he finds himself in, and he can quickly become enraged if someone hurts one of his friends or someone close to him. However, what stands out the most about Luffy and Roger is that both pirates are immensely selfless, possessing a huge heart, and both help anyone who is ever in need of their help, no matter whether it's an ally or even an enemy. This character trait makes everyone they meet think of them as some kind of a hero, but they do not save people to become recognized, but rather they help people without any other ulterior motive. It's just because it's the right thing to do. Luffy and Roger both have earned a reputation as very dangerous peoples because of their recklessness and even outright insanity, facing extremely powerful enemies in which they carry an immense reputation of their own. We've already seen Luffy face people like admirals, Doflamingo, Katakuri, and even the Yonko just to find the One Piece treasure. The same thing must have happened to Roger. Throughout the story, we learned that Roger had faced Kaido, Big Mom, Newgate, and Garp, and even the most feared of all the pirates at the time, Roxy Zebek, which gave him the great reputation throughout his life, allowing him to become the strongest pirate in the world. So as we can see through all the similarities between Luffy and Roger, this could indicate that they have some kind of relationship. After all, this resemblance between Luffy and Roger is not mere coincidence. During some of the promotional chapters of One Piece film Red, we saw that Luffy was being held by a woman who many have speculated could be his mother, but then he was just a normal baby. However, he could have been genetically changed from when he was still inside his mother, and this is not a really impossible idea in the world of One Piece, because this is exactly what happened to Sanji and his brothers. Judge used the lineage factor that he had learned to manipulate through his studies together with Vegapunk, and he was able to change the cells of the growing babies so that they could become stronger and much more powerful. So Dragon could have asked Vegapunk to do the same thing to his son, but instead of giving his son Luffy great strength and endurance, Dragon asked Vegapunk to use Roger's cells. This would make Luffy's lineage factor or bloodline element resemble Roger, which has allowed Luffy to possess much of the same determination, kindness, and great evolutionary capacity that Luffy possesses. Now, although this does seem quite far-fetched and quite difficult to even happen, we have to remember that Vegapunk is a great scientist who possesses an intelligence well above normal and has possessed the ability to change the cells of most any living being. Just consider the possibility that Vegapunk was able to make a sword take the power of a devil fruit, and of course we're talking about Punk Fruit, something considerably impossible to do, but again, Vegapunk was able to do it. So at some point in the past, Dragon could have asked Vegapunk to modify his son's cells. This could have possibly happened sometime after Roger had lost his life publicly, because at this point, Luffy hadn't been born yet. Vegapunk could have easily gotten Roger's cells as well, because Roger was somebody that had gotten into many different battles, and he could have even gotten a sample just after Roger had been captured before his execution. Now, Roger was a person who had a goal that many other pirates and marines seemed to be more childlike in a dream, but at the end of the day, they still didn't want him to be able to achieve this goal, at the very least. So the great treasure that Roger longed for during his journey across the seas, it may not have been just about the One Piece, but something much, much bigger. It's also even possible that because of all of Roger's multiple clashes with characters, he might have bled and left some kind of evidence or other material behind that would have allowed Vegapunk to collect it. This idea is further supported by the fact that Vegapunk has been able to create these seraphim of all the former warlords. So he managed to get the cells of everyone, even Jinbei, who had abandoned the warlords to become a Straw Hat. And it was through these cells that Vegapunk might have modified Luffy, making him able to acquire the same characteristics as the Pirate King, and the purpose of which is still not known. But then the question really becomes why? Did they do this just to create some kind of powerful child that was capable of achieving the same level of strength as the King of the Pirates? Something that not even Edward Newgate, Whitebeard, was able to achieve? Or did they possibly do this so that Luffy would become the new Joy Boy of this era? Something that Roger wasn't able to achieve because he lacked something necessary to be able to become it, or he was at least too early. Roger himself said after he managed to find the One Piece treasure that he wished he had lived in the same era as Joy Boy so he could see him come back, which means that Joy Boy has a certain era or time frame in which he can return. We even saw in flashbacks during Roger's journey that the Sea Kings had been extremely excited about some certain children being born. Now, one, they were alluding to Shirahoshi, the next Poseidon and Mermaid Princess, but there was another person that was going to guide that princess into a new world. And that person they could have been talking about, many in the community have speculated, was Luffy. So although Roger could maybe have had the potential to become Joy Boy, he didn't didn't necessarily have the very thing that would make him Joy Boy. So Dragon could have allied with Vegapunk to make Luffy the new Joy Boy. And this is one goal that during the Wano arc was accomplished. Luffy actually became Joy Boy. Now, we still don't know exactly what that means. I mean, Luffy doesn't seem to have changed much at all. He just kinda got a new transformation. Through his new Gear 5th, he acquired a new transformation called Nika, where the beating of his heart was similar to drums, and it was considered to be the drums of liberation. So Luffy's real goals are still hidden, but Dragon and Vegapunk could have been the very two individuals that were responsible for laying out the track so that Luffy could achieve this feat. I mean, since Dragon is the leader of the Revolutionaries, an organization that seeks to defeat the world government and establish peace in the world, this would be the very person, Joy Boy I mean, that would be needed to help bring the new dawn. Since we, the reader, are still waiting to learn more about Vegapunk's true goals, we know at least that he and Dragon were allied and friends, and that they both also knew Professor Clover. So as we move along in our story, we're really going to be able to find out what the role Luffy may have had in this alliance between the leader of the Revolutionaries and the smartest scientist in the world. But with all that said, my friends, what do you think about it? Why do you think Dragon and Vegapunk had an alliance in the first place? Was it just they had the mutual friend in Clover, or did they find that they had a mutual enemy or a mutual goal for the future of the world? Next, what do you think about this possibility of Luffy somehow being an inheritor of Roger's will and possibly even Roger's DNA or lineage factor or bloodline element, whichever phrase you prefer? But let's remember that many of Roger's former crewmates, Rayleigh, Crocus, and others have looked at Luffy and wondered if he was the person that Roger had been waiting for. Even Whitebeard said so at Marineford, because he looked at Teach saying that no, he wasn't the man that Roger had been waiting for. Perhaps meaning that somebody else on that battlefield, in fact, maybe even our favorite rubber captain, could have been the very individual Roger was talking about. So with all that said, let us know what you think in the comments below. So as we wrap up the video for the day, I want to thank you all so much for watching the video and sticking with us all the way to the very end. Be sure you comment any themes or ideas that you'd like to see in future videos. And also, since you made it this far, give us a like and hit that red subscribe button before you head out to take on the rest of your day. Hope to see you all in our next video, and let's keep sailing this giant sea together. Take care.